I think being in your 50s can be some of the best time of your entire life. You know how when you turn 20 and you're not a kid anymore, but you're not quite an adult anymore? It's the same thing in your 50s. You still have your youth, you still have your vitality, you still have 100% of your mental acuity and lots of energy, but you know what? You're not a kid anymore. You're rapidly approaching what I call the youth of your senior years. Don't worry, you're not there yet, but you're gonna be there. And so I just encourage you to really take full advantage of this time. And a lot of folks think, oh, I'm 50, I'm getting old, I can't do these things. Baloney. You can still do these things. It's unusual. You still have a lot of time, but you know what? You don't have much time at all. Let me tell you what I mean by that. Think about from 20 until 50. Think back to when you were 20 years old. Okay, that 30-year period is how much time you have until you're 80 years old. That's a lot of time. You can get a lot of things done in that period of time, particularly if you take care of yourself, right? Until your 80s, for most of us, not all of us unfortunately, but for most of us, our health, our energy levels, our vitality is really determined by our lifestyle choices, how well we take care of ourselves. So that's until 80, and then unfortunately after our 80s, our genes take over, and some of us are gonna have a smooth ride, and some of us are not gonna have a smooth ride. But that 30-year period, that's a lot of time. Again, think back to when you first turned 20. That's how much time you have between now and 80. But it's also not a lot of time at all. Here's what I mean by that. By the time you're 60, you likely have less than 1,000 weeks of healthy active time in front of you. And that's not a lot of time, right? So your 50s is kind of this transition. You're not quite in the youth of your senior years, but you're getting there very quickly. So I want to encourage you, no more, I'm going to do this. No more, someday I'm going to do this. You know what? Someday is now. You've wanted to travel, you want to go see the world, the time to do that is now. You've wanted to pick up a new sport. I learned to surf when I turned 50. I'm now almost 60, but the time to learn a new sport is now. You still can do it. You want to maybe start a company. The time to do that is now. You've put it off, always waiting for the right time. Well, you know what? If you haven't done it yet, now is the right time. So think about doing it, because it gets a lot harder to do it in your 60s. So I want you to think about it. Thinking about learning a new skill. YouTube is something that, as I record this, I've been doing YouTube less than a year. It was a new skill to me a year ago. And now look at me, right? I really enjoy doing this. I really enjoy sharing these thoughts with you and kind of teaching what I've learned over 20 years. And hopefully you find it helpful. And we've got a great community in the comments section. So if you want to learn a new skills, now's the time to do it. If you want to do something but you're afraid of failing, if not now, when are you going to do it? And really, the cost of failure is quite a bit less now, right? If you fail in your late 20s, your early 30s, you have that potential reputational risk, you know? And at our age, what the heck do we have to lose, right? We are who we are at this stage. People know who we are. So you have a lot of time, but you also have very little precious time. I want to encourage you to get after it. Also, I want to encourage you to take care of your health, right? I talked about think back to your 20s until now. You have that much time between 20 and where you're at today until you're 80. But you know what? You got to take care of yourself. It was easy. The journey from 20 till now was easy. It was kind of on autopilot, but autopilot days are over. So we really need to be conscious about how we're taking care of ourselves. I want you to think about, you know, what you're eating. I want you to think about investing time and money to make it easy for you to be your healthiest self. For some of us, maybe that means something as simple as paying somebody else to do your grocery shopping. Where I live, they do it for free. Whether I go pick stuff out at the store or I have them shop for me ahead of time and they just put it in my car, the trunk of my car, it's the same price. So why wouldn't I do that? That gives me back an hour of my time. And it also keeps me from looking at that bag of potato chips or whatever else, the candy that's in the store, and not being tempted from that. So I want you to think about investing in that. For other people, it might be going as far as paying somebody to cook some meals or hiring a coach to help you lose the 10 pounds that you've been struggling with for 20 years. If you haven't lost that 10 pounds on your own, in 20 years, you're probably not going to. And mea culpa, I just signed up for a fitness coach because I've got 10 pounds I wanted to lose in 2023 and last year. And guess what? Not only did I not lose 10 pounds, but I gained 10 pounds. And that's got to stop. And I gave myself all of last year to do it without bringing out my wallet and spending the money. But now it's time for me to invest in myself. It's time for me to do it. And you likely have things like that as well. I also want you going to the gym. As we get older, we lose some of our muscle mass every year. So it's super important that we go to the gym and we lift heavy things. It's super important that we get on the treadmill and we do cardio. It's important that we maintain our flexibility. For me, that means doing yoga twice a week. And I'm not a physician, and you definitely should get checked by a physician before you start any of this, but find out what you enjoy doing and get on it. Start doing it 4, 5, 6, maybe even 7 days a week. I try to work out 6 days a week. God created the world in 6 days and needed a day of rest. So certainly after 6 days of working out, I deserve a day of rest as well. What else do I have on that? So that is your physical health, but I also want to talk about your mental health. You want to hear something startling? You know what the number one cause of death for men in their 50s is? It's not heart attacks, it's not strokes, it's not cancer. Number one cause of death for men in their 50s is suicide. And you know what? Your 50s are supposed to be fun. Just like your 20s were fun. You know, you're kind of carefree in your 20s. You don't understand all the responsibilities that are about to be placed on your shoulders. But you know what? It's the same thing in your 50s. For many of us, many of those responsibilities have been lifted. So your 50s is your new 20s, and I want you to go have fun. And if you're not feeling that fun, if you're not feeling that joy for life, I want you to think about going to therapy. And full disclosure, I had some things in my life I had to deal with. I've gone to therapists probably a dozen different times, and not just once or twice, but for weeks and months at a time, while they helped me deal with what I had to deal with. So at 50 years old, there's no more time for regrets. There's no more time for looking back. There's no more time for thinking what if or I should have. You know what? The past is the past. Get some therapy. And if you're worried about the future, none of us knows what tomorrow brings, but work with a therapist. I want you to get all the joy out of this that you can, because I don't want that to be something that happens for you. So no more regrets, no more I could have, no more I should have. Now it's time for I'm doing. I've always wanted to do this. Well, that time is now. I thought I wanted to start a company. That time is now. I thought I wanted to learn how to surf. Get out there, buy yourself a wetsuit, get yourself a surf coach, and get out there. And I also want you to watch this video here, which is a similar theme, but it's 7 things to stop doing in order to enjoy your 50s and 60s more. Thanks for watching this video. I'll see you in there. Bye-bye.